Hi Pisces, how are you? It's me, Lauren B. Welcome to the Untitled Tarot. Pisces, this week we're going to do a combination of the Star Seed Oracle. Yes, I was like, so many texts. The Star Seed Oracle and the Spirit Animal Oracle. You have a couple of the same cards that Virgo had, and I was like on the fence of who I was going to do first. So you have a couple of the same cards. Your story is very different though. I don't know if you're having like writer's block or like a block in like your creative flow or something like that. It's like almost like you feel like you need like inspiration. Pisces are really creative people. Like you sit home in like a very dreamy world. So when it's like you don't have anything to dream about, or you don't have like any new like bits, like fires of inspiration, you get really like melancholy. I'm a Pisces, my Pisces people. So like I understand. So I want to walk this out with you a little bit. It's really cool how you're reading. It mirrors. There's actually a bunch of mirrors on the cards that we have here too. Because if we read your cards from the first all the way to the last, the story reads exactly the same from the last all the way to the first. So that might be a thing that you kind of feel like you're in last place right now, but you're like fixing to like move your way like up to the front of the line. So don't worry about that, Pisces. Let's pray. Father God, thank you for being here with me and my Pisces today. I ask that you bless these messages and cover these cards, that you give me wisdom, clarity, and discernment to deliver these messages accurately. We love you, we praise you, we thank you always. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. And then Pisces. So, your life is a canvas, Pisces. Look how beautiful. The colors on your cards are so gorgeous today. It's all these like soft pinks and these corals and these purples. It's just like, ooh, it's just like, oh, I love it. Look, your life is a canvas, right? And, you know, though I saw this card and I thought prism, right? And like prisms are beautiful, right? It's almost like a kaleidoscope. It takes all of the colors and it kind of like shines them out from all of these different like geometric, usually they come in triangles or right, and all of these different things. But the thing about a prism as well is that it distorts the colors in a sense, because instead of showing like each one of the color rays, right, Roy G. Biv, in its own integrity, it kind of mixes them all together. So there is this sense that I'm getting that whatever it is that you're doing, maybe you're a reader, maybe you're an empath, maybe you make music, maybe you make art, you paint, whatever it is that you do, because it feels like something that you actually like do, like almost like with your hands. There's something that you like produce, that you make, that it feels like as you're in the process of producing it, you're making it with other people's like opinions, like in your foresight. It's like almost as though you're making things that you think people will like, as opposed to making things that feel right to you. It's like the way you view your art, even as you're making it, even as you're creating it, it's through the lens of how other people are going to see it. And in that, I think it is distorting like the original like artistic creative integrity of what you're making. So then whatever it is that you're then putting out, when it's not received like the way that you want it to, it feels like you're like almost like a little confused why. And it's because, again, it's like you're almost like well, what is that saying? You're like preaching to the crowd or something like that. You're playing to the crowd as opposed to like playing your own song. It's a little bit like that. And it's still beautiful, right? Like whatever it is that you're making is still beautiful, but it just doesn't feel like it's like hitting the spot for you. And then you have this brown bear spirit, like take time out. And it's interesting that on top of these like mountains, right? And underneath, what's like inside of a mountain? A cave. And that's somewhere that a bear would be. And this is such like motherly, feminine, like divine feminine, like empress energy for me, that it's almost like when you're too close to a project, to a picture, right? It's like you kind of like lose focus. It's like you kind of have to step back a little bit to gain like a little bit more perspective. I think that's a lot of the advice here for you, Pisces, is to kind of like take a step back, like sit, instead of being in like your masculine energy where you're producing and you're doing and you're putting out, sit back a little bit, allow yourself to sit, male or female, in like your divine feminine energy, where it's like you are far enough away from the project to get perspective on what it is that you're creating, to get like a little bit more inspiration. And also with this like motherly energy, it's also something about like nurturing your creative spirit as well, not feeling like you're just like a machine, like you're a factory, like I got to put out a reading, I got to put out a painting, I got to put out this, I got to do that, I got to make a song, I got to make a hit. right? It's like allowing yourself to be like inspired by giving yourself like the energetic space to like allow this to come in. And with this like over your heart a little bit, right? It's almost like you're putting like a lot of energy and a lot of time and like a lot of this, you know, stuff like into what it is you're creating, but there's an element of like your heart, like what you really want to be doing, right? Again, it's not like playing to the crowd a little bit as opposed to just like singing your own song. Excuse me, Pisces. I'm like, sing your song, and then I'm like, I can't speak. It's probably symbolic. The Hieroth, longing for home, homesick for the stars. I love how this mirrors a little bit, because up here you're on top of this mountain, right? And it's beautiful, but it's like a little bit distorted because you're seeing through other people's lenses of how they're going to interpret your work. Here, it's like when you go into the cavern, when you go into the cave and sit in that divine feminine energy, all of this distortion kind of like goes away, and then you end up in this very like spiritual, inspiring, like also soft, like easily like receptive. It's like easy on the eyes landscape, right? This is like how it's kind of supposed to be seen. Almost, again, it's like your home, right? Homesick for the stars, for that like gushy, like soft, like dreamy kind of like, I'm hearing that song, dream, right? And you see, it's like you're still here, right, on like this little mountain trying to get this higher perspective. But I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it on my camera, but when I looked closer at this card, right, there's like a little person down here. Do you see this little person? And it's almost a sense that like you're wondering how to like get to like the next step, how to get to the next mountain, right? Like Virgo had a little bit, like the next upgrade, like the next level, right? And whatever it is that you're doing. And it's almost like if I just like try really, really hard, right, with my masculine energy, I could jump over here. But I think, again, the advice is to not like leap over, it's to go under. It's like to go under. It's almost like when you're at like at the beach and you're in the ocean and like a wave comes and you have that choice whether or not to like kind of jump over the wave or to like sink underneath and swim up, right? It's like over or up. They want you to go in because you're down here and it's like all of these clouds. It's like you have to kind of like let yourself drift into this dreamy, like unconscious, subconscious, like soft, receptive, like, you know, like smooth jazz and soft candles, like that kind of like artistic vibe, right? And it's like then you get to float in these clouds. And I was sitting here looking at it and I was like, it's almost like a little ball pit. Did you ever go into one of those ball pits when you were a kid, right? And there's just like Marco Poloing with your friends, trying to find your friends, because there is this like longing for home, like homesick for the stars. There's also this like feeling that like you might be like the artist in your group or in your friends or in your family or like the only like mystic or the only musician, right? That like there's a sense of maybe part of the reason why you're playing to the crowd a little bit is because you're trying to almost like convince them that what you're doing is like a real thing, that being like an oracle is like a real job, or that like you can be a musician like as a real job, or you can like make your art a career, right? So it's like you're trying to do stuff that they will like to convince them about the validity of what you're doing, right? Which I think kind of goes back into talking about like a little bit of you being insecure or like uncertain, not confident enough in like your own gifts and abilities. But there is this sense that you have to like kind of go in, like go under, get in the cavern, get in the cave, get in the ball pit, which also talks a little bit about like fun, right? Like, again, it's that like heart energy. It's like you got to have a little bit more fun with like what you're doing. It's supposed to be art, no matter what medium it is, even if it's cooking, like if it's coach, like whatever it is, like there needs to be like a level of joy and fun that needs to be involved in there. And then we have this koi fish spirit. There's always enough. And this almost feels like one of the balls, like one of those like orange balls, like inside the ball pit, that as you dip into this subconscious, into this like dreamy, ooey gooey creative realm, right? Like unabashed by anyone else's opinions, you like find one of these balls. It's like the one you want. It's like the golden egg, right? And what it is, it's this koi fish spirit. Fish, you're a Pisces, right? Talking about flow and abundance. In there, you find yourself and realize that you are enough. Your gifts, your abilities, your talents, they were put in you by a higher source, right? Because it's something that is supposed to be expressed out of you to the rest of us, right? That you are enough. You've always been enough. You will always be enough. You don't have to play to the crowd. It's just important that you play, right? And then we move into this big picture thinking and the bat spirit. A rebirth is assured. And then I feel like this is like as you come out of like this ethereal ball pit, right? It's almost like you come back up to shore and the waters are smooth now, right? It's like not all of this distorted prism that almost looks like a little bit like, almost like dirty, right? It's like a filter, almost like when you're in a car and like somebody smokes cigarettes in their car and they have like that film on their windshield. It's a little bit like that. Virgo had like a windshield thing too. It's different though. Whereas this is like clear now. It's like crisp. It's like a crisp picture, right? And a rebirth. I think it's talking about like a reinvigoration of your inspiration, right? Like those juices flowing, like big picture thinking. I know what I'm going to do. I have my next big project. It's a little bit like that, right? And with this like kind of one, it looks a little bit like a mirror, like kind of this reflecting like your beauty back to you, which is so nice. That's so lovely. But it also acts a little bit as like a portal that like you are your own portal. There's something in that. And the bat also talks for me a lot about like ancestral energy as well. It's that like, you've been here before. You've done this before. It's like it's in your blood. It's in your blood to play. It's in your blood to create, right? To like be a light onto the world, Pisces. And then we move into activated earth. And the mouse spirit, tend to the small things. Virgo had this card too. Yours is coming through differently. Yours is a little bit like all of those dry, hard places that you've had inside of you. It almost feels like these were like the things that were blocking you, right? It's like as all of this kind of like flows, this inspiration like flows down into you now, it's like through the cavern. It's like you get to like moisten. I don't love that word, but you hydrate. Thank you. That's a better word. You get to rehydrate all of these like dry places, all of the like things that were keeping you stuck or blocked. Other people's opinions, your own self-doubt, fear, like writer's block, whatever it was. It's like this like wave of inspiration and like confidence. And again, it's like all this beautiful pink. It's like this soothing energy comes in to like rehydrate all of these places so you can have new growth. And then you have this mouse spirit, like tend to the small things. And I think that's talking about you. You're a water sign, right? When you start feeling anxious or depressive or a little stir crazy or squirrely or competitive or like any of that, like that should be like an alarm system to you as a water sign, because you're very like dreamy, go with the flow, that like something's off in my energy, like I'm absorbing something that's not mine, like I'm not in alignment, like I gotta like check in with myself, right? Because this mouse almost looks with this like orb behind him, it almost looks like a hamster in a wheel, right? It's like as a Pisces, like you do not belong in the rat race. Rat race has been coming up a lot in the readings this week, but it's like you can't handle a rat race. Do you know why? Because you're a fish. You're in the water. Like you're not supposed to be on the ground scurrying around with everyone. It'll freak your energy out, right? It just doesn't work. I am a Pisces. I know this. I know these things, right? So I think that that's part of what it is that I think checking in with yourself. Again, this like take time out, this like self-care thing. Excuse me. This like self-care thing, I think it's something that for you feels like, oh, it's just a small thing, like, oh, I'll get more sleep tomorrow, like, oh, I'll do this later, I'll do that. It's like not prioritizing like your own needs, but also realizing that when you're overtired, when you're not eating, when you're dehydrated, right? There could be something about needing more water, right? When you're feeling sad and you're not checking in with yourself, or you're not expressing yourself or your needs, or at least tending to your own needs, right? You're not prioritizing them, then that starts drying up all of your creative like energy outlets, right? So that's like a sign for you to kind of check back in and rehydrate. Now we move into you're not for everyone and the Panther spirit, 44. That's a number of encouragement. It's, you know, Pisces oftentimes get kind of picked on, which is funny because you're the oldest of all the zodiac signs, but it's like everyone picks on you for some reason. Like, you know, Pisces are weak-willed, like Pisces are so wishy-washy, Pisces are so emotional, Pisces are that, right? You know what I'm saying? Like people do that with Pisces. I don't know why. We're their elder, so I don't really understand. It's like, don't pick on your grandma. It's a little bit like that, but it's a little bit of embracing like your weirdness, right? Maybe you are the only intuitive in your family. Maybe everyone thinks you're crazy because you talk to ghosts, right? Maybe you want to play your guitar and go on the road. They think you're nuts, right? You want to bake cookies for a living. You want to make art and sell it on Etsy, and they think that that's not a real job. It doesn't matter. Like, embrace it. Like, who you are is not going to mesh with everyone. And what you want to do and what your calling is also, not everyone's going to agree with it. Not everybody's going to think it's a real thing, but it doesn't mean that it's not. If it's real to you, then it's real, right? I feel like I have to say it again. If it's real to you, then it's real. Reclaim your power. Take back all of this distortion. Don't play to the crowd. You just play. Just have fun. Just get your hands dirty. Make mud pies. Create. Hop in the ball pit, right? Followed up by beautiful. Forge. Don't follow. Pave a new path. Be the leader you wish you had, right? Again, that's why a little bit of that, like, people are staring at you a little bit because they've never seen what you're doing being done before, at least in their immediate circle, right? In your immediate, like, town or territory or friend group or family. But, and I could say that for myself, right? Like, I'm the only one out of my friends, my family, and any of the jobs that I've worked at that does what I do. When I was like, hey, I'm an intuitive, I do tarot, they're like, what? They didn't think it was a real thing, right? They thought I was just dicking around. But I had to forge that path, right? I didn't have an example of what I am, right? I had to be that. And in doing what I do, I get to show other people that maybe it's not what I do, but they can go live out their quirky dreams 7 days a week. And it's totally cool. Like, it is totally possible. God is real, God is good, and dreams do come true, right? So again, it's like maybe you haven't seen it, but that might also be an indicator that you haven't seen it because you were supposed to step into that role, like, as a leader. Other people can witness you that, yes, you can be a working artist. Yes, you can be a working musician. Yes, you can be a working psychic, oracle, tarot reader, whatever it is. You could be a professional candlestick maker if you feel like it, whatever it is. And here you are, like, dipped down in your subconscious, right? In the ball pit, kind of looking back up at, like, the natural world, almost like so comfortable now being in your element that it's like, I don't want to go back up there with the rest of the muggles. It's a little bit like that, right? But in there, it almost looks like there's like this, it's not a person, but it almost looks like a person up here, right? That's almost like they're, like, dripping into the subconscious. Again, it's like this idea that, like, there are other people that need to see you doing what you do, exactly how you do it. Weird, quirky, expansive, whatever it is, like, other people need to see that because other people need to know that, like, it's possible to, like, be yourself and to do something that makes your heart sing regardless of what anyone else thinks about it, right? And then you have fall into my arms, surrender, holding the opposites, extremes of life, right? And then you have the golden children, inner child, tenderness, innocence, rare gifts, right? And I think in the realization of, like, again, like, reclaiming, like, your personal power and, like, your creative juices really flowing, it's that actualization of, like, oh shit, I can really do this. Like, oh my God. And this, like, extremes of life, again, it's like kind of you fall back into the cavern a little bit. Don't let it, like, overwhelm you. There's a sense of, like, I'm really gonna go for it. I'm gonna pull myself up on my bootstraps and I'm gonna start making my art and I'm gonna start doing that. And then it's like, again, when you kind of get up to the natural world and other people start witnessing you, it feels a little bit like stage fright. And then you kind of, like, go from, like, this high down to this low. Very Piscean, right? And you kind of fall into that extreme. Again, it's a little bit like being in the middle, being in, like, the middle realms, kind of standing your ground a little bit. But in that, as these people get to witness you, also, again, you get to mirror. There's this mirroring energy plus a portal that, like, the reflection of you as you see your true authentic self, that acts as a portal for you to move into, like, a higher timeline, like the highest of your potential, like, become more creative, like, appreciate yourself a little bit more, right? Tenderness, again, all of this soft, sweet, pink, purple, coral energy, rare gifts, the golden children. And again, I think you'll come to find that there's all of these other people, like, lined up who are just like you. They do what you do. Or they are kind of how you are. Maybe you're a musician and they're a reader, or you work with clay, or you make jewelry and you know, they're an artist, they paint, right? But it's like, I think you're going to find, because there is this, like, loneliness, this, like, longing for home, the homesick for the stars, right? It's like this feeling of needing more, like, community, people that are like you, creative, expressive, intuitive, soul tribe, right? Like, soul family, that I think when you kind of come back up, when you kind of get away from your stage fright and move back up onto planet Earth, right? Like, feeling empowered and not, like, crushed down, like not in the hamster wheel, right? Realizing that you're not in competition with anyone else, that koi spirit, like you are enough, your gifts are enough, everything that you will ever be will always be enough. You don't have to compete with other people, right? You are a complement to everything, everyone, and every situation you embark on. There's no need to compete because you are a complement. And I think as you step into that energy and stand your ground, you see that there are all these other people. It's like this soul tribe, right? Kind of all moving to the same timeline, all moving towards the same, beat, the same beat of the heart. That's beautiful. Almost to like the same beat of the heart. It's like the same frequency and the same vibration. Your soul tribe comes to meet you. But again, then I think when you're like, holy shit, there's a lot of us, you end up in empathic, starseed, and starkeeper, energetic sovereignty, absorbing what's not yours, cosmic ancestor, seed the light by staying grounded. That as you go, because you do have to live on planet Earth. I know, it's a bummer. But there is this energy about doing again, like tending to the small things, prioritizing yourself, doing those consistent, regular self check-ins, right? Again, this mirror energy that like when you look in the mirror and you see something that like doesn't look like you, right? It's almost like, I didn't have wrinkles yesterday. Why do I have wrinkles today? Well, maybe you're dehydrated, Pisces, right? It's like one of those things, like when you're feeling stressed and like your head hurts and it's like, are you feeding yourself? Are you sleeping enough? Are you expressing your emotions? Do you need a laugh? Do you need a cry? Do you need a night in? Do you need a night out? Like, do you need to talk to someone? Do you need, right? It's like you're doing these consistent self check-ins to see like anything that doesn't look like you, doesn't feel like your energy that you've picked up unknowingly like a sponge from other people, other places, environments, that then you can kind of, it's almost like someone washing off their makeup at the end of the night, which I forget to do all the time, right? But again, it's like sometimes even me, like I forget, I'm like, I feel crazy right now. And I'm like, because you've just absorbed so many people's energy over like the last 36 hours and you didn't like take the time to consciously recognize that and then like squeeze it out, separate it, cleanse it, clear it, get back to your center, namaste, right? So again, this is, I think, the same kind of thing for you, is doing these regular self check-ins to see like if all of your needs are being met and if there's anything else that is attaching to you, right, that isn't yours. That way you can kind of cleanse it off, and that's how you ground yourself, right? Again, it's almost like this, like water. See, it's like this is you, kind of like this stone, right? Realizing like, oh, there are parts of me that are getting like hard, untended. Let me like stick it in some water. Let me like rehydrate that. Again, moisten it, like let the flow. It's like almost like the Tin Man, like get your oil. And then the last card that you have is jump in, Andromedan energy, adventure, like say yes to change. And then I think again, once you you do these regular check-ins, you cleanse your energy, you get back to yourself, then it's like you're right back in it. You're ready to like jump back into the process. I wanted to say project, but I said process twice, so double process. It's a double process, Pisces. Jump back into the collective, because this is like this big eye, right? It's like being like the eye of the storm where it's the calmest, right? It's like back into the action, back into the collective. And this eye almost feels like the collective, like jumping back into that creative aspect of yourself where you affect everyone else, right? By them getting to witness who you are and what you do and how you do it in like the very unique, special, and beautiful way that you do. So Pisces, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I'd read it backwards to front, but I just scurried all my cards around. So very Piscean of me. But thank you, Pisces, for being here. I really hope that you enjoyed this reading. I'm going to go do your extended on the Patreon to see if I can refine this for you a little bit, pull anything else out of these cards. Use probably Seers Tarot. So I will see you over on the Patreon if this is the end of the road for you, Pisces. Thank you for being here with me. I hope that this was helpful to you. I love you very, very much. Until I see you next time, stay blessed, stay prayed up, stay sweet. I'll see you later.